In the name of God, the compassionate, Assalamu alaikum. Hello, my name is Robert McCaw. I'm the National Government Affairs Director with the Council on American-Islamic Relations, CAIR, and I want to thank you for joining our virtual news conference today. With me right now is CAIR National Executive Director and Co-Founder, Nihad Awad. Nihad, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, how are you?
I'm doing very well, alhamdulillah. I'm very excited for this press conference today because it is in support of the introduction of the Jamal Khashoggi Way Designation Act of 2021 by the DC City Council. This resolution has been introduced today by DC City Council member Brooke Pinto, seeking to rename the street in front of the Saudi Arabian Embassy in Washington, DC after Khashoggi, and would designate New Hampshire Avenue Northwest between Virginia Ave Northwest and F Street Northwest as Jamal Khashoggi Way. Jamal Khashoggi brutal murder had sparked worldwide outrage, including in Washington, D.C., where Khashoggi worked as a columnist for the Washington Post and as executive director for Dawn. Following his murder in October 2nd, 2018, activists in D.C. immediately launched a petition to rename the street outside the Saudi Arabian Embassy after Mr. Khashoggi. Almost 10,000 people signed that petition. Also, the DC Advisory Neighborhood Commission for the area where the Saudi Arabian Embassy is located issued a resolution calling for the DC City Council to rename the street. While that effort did not succeed at that time, because you would have to wait 2 years in DC to rename a street, those 2 years are up. So time is up. To kick off this news conference, we're going to have several statements by CAIR National Executive Director Nihad Awad, also from Dawn Advocacy Director Raed McCracken-Garrar, and Code Pink co-founder Medea Benjamin. Following those statements and prepared remarks, we will take some questions from the media and reporters in the audience if they found our comment box on Facebook. I'm happy to introduce our first speaker, CAIR National Executive Director Nihad Awad.
Thank you, Robert. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for joining. This is an important day. I cannot say it's a happy day because nothing that can be done to bring justice to Jamal Khashoggi or to bring him back. The brutal murder of Jamal Khashoggi, who happened to be a friend of mine, a close friend of mine, whom I spent a lot of time after he came back to resettle in the DMV area, in working with the Washington Post, and also in the hopes of building an organization to promote democracy and justice in the Arab world. Jamal's brutal murder and assassination shook the world, and we will not forget him. He's a friend, he's a colleague, a prominent journalist, a man of peace, a reformist. We know that his murderers tried to silence his voice. I believe they killed his body, but they failed to silence his voice, because his voice is still echoing, and his words are echoing around the world, because the murder shook the world. And now his name will echo in Washington, D.C., in front of the place that he thought he will be safe to go there and do the business of any citizen whenever they enter their consulate or embassy. That name of the street that will be renamed after his name is going to function as a reminder to his brutal murderers that his name and legacy will not go away. But it's a testament of how Washington, D.C., the home of the press, the home of the federal government, and thousands of people and millions of people who look up to the city. I know it's going through turmoil now, but the city stands for freedom of the press, the Washington Post, so many networks. And that's why Jamal came here to, and in the hope that he will amplify the voices of those who have been silenced in prison, the reformists that have been killed, and the ladies who wanted just to drive a car like the rest of women around the world in the Muslim world and everywhere. Jamal was not violent. Jamal was a vocal, intellectual, caring, loving journalist to his family, to his country, and to the world. So I'm glad that DC today is sending a loud and clear message that his legacy and name will be with us for a long time, as long as we're living, and for generations to know who this man, and also not to forget about his brutal murderers. I would like to thank DC Council member Brooke Pinto for introducing this legislation, for this resolution, and I urge other members to vote in favor of this and get it done as soon as possible. This is a symbolic gesture from Washington, D.C. to tell the world that we honor Jamal Khashoggi and we're not going to forget about him. And this is just one of the most befitting, is just to rename a little street, but an important street in front of the Saudi Embassy in Washington, D.C. And we hope that justice will. And I really thank very much his organization that came to being, Democracy for the Arab World Now. His dream became true. That the organization was launched while he was alive, but it took off, and I appreciate everyone who's working in it, and I appreciate everyone who can help sponsor and fund this organization, because they need the help of everyone to make sure that the legacy of Jamal Khashoggi continues. And I would like to thank also Code Pink, Medea Benjamin and her team, everybody in Washington, D.C. and around this country and beyond. They know their courageous stances when it comes to social justice. And they have been with this effort from day one. And I'm sure had they known Jamal Khashoggi, they would have also shared fun memories with them. So thank you, Medea, also for your work. And I turn it back to you.
Thank you, Brother Nihad. Inshallah, the DC City Council, God willing, they will get this done. Our next speaker is Don Advocacy Director Raed McCracken Gerard. The floor is yours.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for organizing this CAIR. This is Raed Gerard. I am Advocacy Director with Don. And I want to welcome our viewers from the Arab world. مرحبا بمشاهدينا من العالم العربي. Don, as Nihad mentioned, is an organization that was founded by Jamal Khashoggi before his murder in 2018. Our name, Don, stands for Democracy for the Arab World Now. We are based in the United States with researchers around the world. And we are very proud that we played a role in today's resolution. We are very happy that the Councilwoman introduced this important resolution today. And as Nihad mentioned, we call on the DC Council to take the resolution up for a vote and schedule a public hearing as soon as possible. Actually, Don has organized a petition that we will be sharing with Chairman Mendelson and other members of the Council next week. The petition has been signed by a very long list of international and local organizations calling on the Council to change the name of the street immediately. This is important not only for preserving the memory of Jamal Khashoggi, but it is also important for us as DC residents to send a strong message that we are not going to forget about our neighbor, Jamal Khashoggi, and the brutal murder that happened. We're not going to give the Saudi Embassy or any other government a pass when they attack the freedom of speech, when they attack journalists, especially the ones who live in our region. So the petition has been signed so far by a very long list of organizations. We have Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, Reporters Without Borders, Committee to Protect Journalists, Article 19, Project on the Middle East, Democracy, PEN America. The list goes on and on and on with international organizations who are urging the DC Council to do this. And we also have a number of DC local organizations such as Empower DC, One DC, One Common Unity, DuPont Circle Citizens Organization, Foggy Bottom Citizens Organization, Friends of MLK, and other local groups who are asking the DC Council to do the right thing. So Don urges all DC residents to contact the DC Council this week. You can go on the website to get their contact information. Please contact your council member, contact Chairman Mendelson, urge them to bring this extremely important resolution for a vote as soon as possible. Let me give the floor back to my friend Robert, and thank you.
Thank you so much. We look forward to working with you to get success on this resolution and renaming the street. Our next speaker is Code Pink co-founder Medea Benjamin, a good friend of CAIR. Medea, floor is yours.
It's an honor to be working on this campaign with CAIR and with Dawn that is so beautifully taking the legacy of Jamal Khashoggi and putting it into actions. I also want to thank the councilwoman, and it's so exciting after 2 years of campaign that we've been part of to know that it has been introduced and hopefully will become a reality in the near future. As an activist, I've traveled around the Middle East and have seen the negative impact of Saudi Arabia in places like Yemen, Bahrain, Pakistan. I started to write a book on Saudi Arabia and went to Jamal Khashoggi for advice. And I attended all of his lectures that he gave in the DC area, read his columns with great eagerness, and learned so much from him. I also learned how brave he was, because as I delved into the issues of Saudi Arabia, I realized how difficult it is for Saudis inside Saudi Arabia and Saudis outside Saudi Arabia, like in the US, to be critical of the government, even in the mild way that Jamal was. And I know so many Saudis in the US who live in fear and don't dare to speak out at all. So I had great admiration for Jamal. To know now that when I go to do protests at the Saudi Embassy, which I do quite often, I'll be able to tell people to meet me at Jamal Khashoggi Way is something that will bring a smile to their faces. It's also going to be very nice to know that while my government, oftentimes both Democrats and Republicans, unfortunately, have been not only selling billions of dollars worth of weapons to the Saudis, but enabling their human rights abuses, both internally and abroad. The people of DC, the residents who call DC their home, will be represented by a city council that understands the importance of democracy, justice, and accountability. So it's a positive move, and we look forward to being able to have the sign out there and meet in Jamal Khashoggi Way. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I'm going to ask our producer, Ayan, if we have any other commenters. Well, with that, I want to conclude today's press conference. If you have any questions, please get in touch with our communications director, Ibrahim Hooper, at ihooper@cair.com. And also, you can find all contact information on our press release. Thank you very much. Thus concludes the press conference.